Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, practice problem from the midterm. This one seems tricky because it looks like they need to give you what he started with as a dollar amount. And that would be more definite, but you can just actually make that up. So we'll just pretend it's 100, because 100 is one of our favorite numbers for doing percent problems. Why do we like 100, by the way?
It's easier to do the percentage because percentage is not
If it goes up 18%, then what is that as a dollar amount?
118 would be the total. So 18.
18, yeah. 18 out of 100 is 18 out of 100. Ta-da! Okay, so it goes up and he's at 118. And then it goes down and he's back to 100. So this is not 18 out of 100 anymore. It's 18 out of 118. So percent change. Change divided by original. So the 18 is the change, same amount down as up, but now we're dividing it by 118. And whatever that happens to be. About 15, 15.3, something like that. How you round it is not the point of the bubble. Does it make sense that the second change is less than the first change?
Yes.
Yes.
But I guess my question is because we're making up our own amount to find the answer. Isn't the answer going to change all the time? So
No.
like, no? Okay.
I'll show you why. That's a wonderful question. So make sure you're good at what's happening here before I write extra stuff that might confuse you. So let's just say this is X. And it goes up. And now we're at 1.18 times X, right? And then it goes down. Our division here is, oh, and what was the amount it goes up by? That's the 0.18 times X, right? So the change divided by original is the change, the 0.18x, because that's the same as what's going on here, divided by what we started at, the 1.18x. And when we do the division, maybe it helps if I write it as a fraction. Then our x's are going to cancel out.
Okay.
So we will always get 0.18 divided by 1.18, or 18 divided by 118, or something like that.
Okay.
The rest will cancel.
Okay.
Welcome to week 3. We only have one class this week because Monday was a holiday, although the study session on Monday was pretty much as long as a class after all. So you could see that recording if you want. Anyway, lots of announcements today. Apologies again for some changes that happened because I haven't taught this before. Things are getting better. Okay, remember I added the rule that weekly things, the forum participations and the homeworks are due Monday at midnight, so people have the Monday study session to ask questions. I reorganized things a little bit better. We wound up doing all of the formulas in week 2, and then today we're going to do a lot of review and maybe have some time just to talk about very broad types of investments, IRAs, 529 plans, things like that. But we need to mostly do our review before next week's test. And the reason we arranged it that way was because, as you saw, homework 2B is hard and tricky. And imagine if I just gave that homework to you now and the test was on Monday, then you would all go crazy and panic. So it is good that we had so long to struggle through homework 2B. And if you haven't turned it in late, that's okay. Keep going. 2A, I'm going to stop grading, but 2B, there's been a few people, unfortunately, a lot of people that had issues with kids' health or pets or jobs or things and have been running slow on that homework. So to be fair, if you want to turn in homework 2B late and aren't having a sucky life, you also get to do so. But now if I expand week 2, then the to-do list looks the same. There's the study session, Jamboards and recordings if you want those. The which formula to use is a big part of it. So here is the link for our formula page. If you're wondering where that is hiding, it's now not kind of hiding awkwardly, but in the which formula to use accordion foldout. And there's a paragraph, several paragraphs here talking about that. And then there's some slides that you can use to sort of test yourself and say, do I know which formula goes in which spots, with some examples. So that's this foldout happy thing. There you go. In case you missed it, it's also in the references. So Elaine's notes has the version that Melanie shared, and then here's the version that I made with ours also. The optional videos were kind of mixed up. A bunch of these were hiding in week 3, but we did talk about these formulas in week 2. So I've put them in week 2. So if you're looking for example videos about how to do the annuities or the loans, then here they are in week 2 when we first were introduced to that. Achievements, of course, we're skipping that for now. Now we're in week 3. We have the same Get Help forum as always. We're still in the textbook chapter about finance. There is an activity for this week. So you don't have homework, but as always, to make sure you're on top of things, there's lots of problems here. And when you're done, at the bottom, you can go to the answer key and see answers. So I have a strange feeling that some people aren't doing the activities and are jumping right into the homework. And then you don't know if you've learned it or not, because it's easy to watch what I do on the screen and say, that makes sense. And then when you try it yourself, it's in a different place in your brain and you have to sort of find it and stuff. So that's what the activities are. So don't skip them. And there's an activity. This week's discussion forum is about reflecting on study skills, giving each other advice. There's no homework this week. All you're doing is 2 practice tests, and the link is here. There is an example savings spreadsheet, which we will use later in class. I spent some time this morning making it look nicer. And then Paula's weekly worksheet may or may not be useful to people, but there it is as an extra thing. Everyone okay so far?
I actually have the practice test with me, but I had one kind of question. It said for number 20, it said for problem 24, the formula to use is blank and the clues that show that are blank. And there's not a problem 24.
There should be. You might have loaded it right when I was editing things, but it should be that
Okay.
There's now a problem 24.
Okay.
So I spent a few hours yesterday morning getting this working where everything shuffles. And so if you happen to load this page right when I was editing it, then there might not have been one there, but it should be now. Good question. Okay, because there's is a review week, there's a test tomorrow, you have another box. So what do you do to get ready for a test? Review your notes. Remember that on the test, it says you can use your notes, but you can't use my website. You can't use the textbook at the top. Right, your textbook at the top. Internet is fast today. Okay. I added a link. You can use that formula page. So if you don't want to recopy all of these, on your own notes, because that's just busy work, you can just print this out. So those are allowed. So a big part of getting ready for the test is reviewing your notes, organizing them, have example problems. You don't want them too long or you'll spend too much time flipping around to find stuff, but you want them long enough to have everything you might need. Review the activities and their answer keys, review your homework, review the quizzes. Paula provided a review sheet, which, like everything from last term, may be helpful to you, might not. It provides at the top things you should be able to do. So even if you don't like the rest of it, this is a great thing. Can you do these things? Take lots of practice tests. Another link here, just in case you missed it, up above. And the Get Help forum, again, just in case you missed it, up above. So then the review problems we did on Monday, I also put here in week 3 because calendar-wise they are this week, right? But they are up above in the previous review ones also. There we are. Then the references for this week, there was a bunch of junk about what types of investments make sense for what household situations that I took out from week 2. It was up here, and you don't care. This wasn't about which formula to use. So I put it down here where we may or may not get to it today. Not as important. The references for this week also have some calculators. And by a calculator, a web site that does the math for you. So play around with these if you're interested. If you are good at the formulas, they don't actually save you much time. By the time you open this and put in all the things and so on, the formula would be just as fast, but they are there. And then achievements, don't worry about that later. If you want the practice test, you can also click not on the fold out bar for week 4, but on just this picture that says test week, and that also opens the test. So you have 3 places to click to get it if you want. Don't look at week 4 yet. Week 4 is bad. I haven't finished editing that yet. Okay, questions on the announcement so far?
Could you kind of review what the test is going to look like as far as?
Sure. It looks like this. So there we go. There's a bunch of problems for problem solving. And then there's a bunch of them on finance. So these mortgage ones will look fairly familiar. 13 and 14 are a little different. I want to make sure we do one set of these in class today. We talked about these types of charts with the rent that changed year to year. So just can you fill out this kind of chart? A simple interest problem. Then these 4 problems, one of them is simple interest, one of them is compound interest, one of them is an increasing annuity, and then one of them is a payout annuity. So you have to find out which is which. So the smaller font is where you say, this is the simple, this is the compound, and so on. And then you actually do the problems. And at the end, there's 2 two-step problems, just so you can show off and the A students can show that they can do extra hard stuff. There's 26 problems, and notice that it says in the instructions that, of course, you read them carefully. You only need to do 22 problems. If you do 23 problems, I will grade the best of the 22, and so on. So you can do all 26, miss 4, and still get a perfect score. Was that enough talking about the test?
Are we doing it in class?
Are we doing in class? We're going to talk about that in a moment. I had sent out a big email with a proposal for what format to use and only got a few replies. Okay, let's look at other things. So we moved the videos about different types of formulas to week 2 where they belong. We moved the links about different kinds of investments to week 3 where they belong. I made an error. If you were with me at the study session Monday, I said that the interest amount or should have said, the interest amount for a mortgage goes up as the length of time of the mortgage goes up. But I had a brain fart and said the opposite. So there we go. I fixed my error. I wanted to demonstrate the Desmos calculator. So at the top of any of our pages is this calculator. I'm going to use it today because a few people have had calculator problems. And so I want you to see my screen as I use this. And it might not be as convenient as your own calculator, but if you are trying the homework and the calculator was the bad guy, then maybe this will be helpful to see a demonstration of how this calculator works. Okay, so I will do that. The deadline detail. Oh, okay, we'll get to that eventually. Okay, midterm format. So I'm going to actually stop recording and resume recording. Okay, and share my screen. Okay, so formula page link was there. Click on the test if you want, link was there. So that was those two announcements. I should make an announcement encouraging everyone to use the Get Help forum more. A lot of you are sending me questions by email saying, how do I do this homework problem or something? And that's fine, but everyone would get to see it if you did the exact same thing in the Get Help forum. So I know it is a little more awkward to click through Moodle and put things in the forum. But if it's the kind of question that other students might want to see, then be helpful to your classmates and put it where they will get the answer to. Similarly, if you aren't subscribed to it, then you might want to, or you might just want to go there once a day, every other day, and see how the Get Help forum is going. This little picture here was, somebody had a homework question and it was their calculator. They were hitting the EXP button on their calculator, and that is a bad button. It is a trap. So don't use the EXP button, use the Y to the X button. They are not the only person who has done that. Okay, the next page of our Jamboard, somebody wanted to do some homework 2A problems, so I had done them out. Continuing the announcements. Last week's forum, a lot of people didn't do much, and some people did one thing but not a new one and 2 replies to get credit for it. So check your code name, make sure if you think you earned participation last week that you did, and a reminder that just because you're not getting your email spammed anymore, please do that each week. I mentioned that people might not be using the activity enough, and also the textbook. Don't ignore your textbook. I think it is my job to teach a different way than the textbook explains, because otherwise you could just read the textbook yourself if it was all the same way. But that doesn't mean just because I don't bring it out during our class time that you shouldn't be looking at it. It has lots of good example problems. It explains things slightly differently. So don't be about to take a midterm never having looked at the textbook. That would be silly. Then lastly, videos. If I go to the YouTube videos, then they have a few views, 8, 5, some of them, but not a lot. Is it worthwhile to put things up on YouTube, or are people only using Zoom, or is video use not that big anyway? Comments about that?
I prefer to have it on Zoom just because then we can just go to one place to find all our school stuff, but I don't particularly care.
I agree with that. I mainly go to Zoom to look at the problems and everything like that. I haven't gone to our YouTube page at all.
Okay. It is not much more work for me to put them in both places, so I'm happy to do both. I'm just a little curious. Zoom, I know, is more convenient in that you can search for certain words in the side. It does its best automatically to type out all of what is spoken. And if you want to go to the place where somebody talks about the annuity formula, you can actually search for annuity formula, and maybe it will take you right to where you want to be. Okay, more homework. I'm just leaving this up on the Jamboard. And quiz problem. There was a trickiness with the quiz. A lot of people correctly got 116 months, And then a very common mistake was you would divide by 4 to find quarters. But if we think about making piles of the same size, every time I have 3 months together, that's a quarter of a year. So I need to take the 116, if that's what I got first, and divide it by 3 to get quarters. 4 jumps in our brain because there's 4 quarters per year, but there's nothing here about year. This is going from months to quarters, which is a divided by 3. So if you made that mistake, don't feel bad. Lots of people did, but I wanted to mention it. Okay, and that's all the kind of review announcement-y thing. I wanted to show you the example savings. Okay. Is this a big enough font? Should I make it look bigger? I want to balance having enough on the screen and making it legible.
I think it's big enough.
Good.
Big enough? Okay. So you don't have to use a spreadsheet. I am thinking this might be a fun thing to do as this week's take-home quiz. It's not really a quiz, but if I'm going to give you an entire midterm next week, what's really the point of a quiz today? It doesn't really make sense as homework. Anyway, this is a way to have a bunch of math happen automatically. So yeah, clarify, resubmit homework 2B until, I'm looking at chat. You can resubmit homework 2B until, I don't know, who cares? Let's say Monday, the test, give you another time. And could those who also need to resubmit 2B meet up later today? Sure, I'll let you arrange that. I'll try and make some time before we're done with class at 3:40, 3:50. Okay, in chat, if you said here, great. Thank you for doing attendance. If you've never used a spreadsheet before, type me never or something, either publicly or to me privately in chat. I want to know what level I'm talking at now. So if you've never used a spreadsheet, holler out in chat and let me know. Okay. So I will start at the beginning for at least those 3 people and anyone else who's embarrassed and would say they haven't, but we're quiet. So a spreadsheet is like graph paper. I can put in a number in a spot, right? I can write hi in a spot. It is sort of like graph paper you type in. And so far, that's not terribly exciting. I can do fonts and colors and stuff. So in this box, A1, I have put introduction and made it big and blue. I'm saying A1 because I'm in column A, row 1, and wherever I click, it's going to do a slight highlight to help me see that this box is E3 and so on. So I put a bunch of things in. So far, this is just a very awkward word processor. I am typing sentences, I am formatting them. Why would anyone care? If you want to join me, I'm going to put the link directly in chat so you don't have to dig into it in the week 3 to-do list. And you can see this but not change it. If I go to File and then Make a Copy, you can make your own copy and save it. And then it's yours in your Google account, and you can change it because it's yours. One thing I would change is where it says add your name, then type in your name there. So if you send it back to me, I know who it is. Okay, now the magic starts to happen. We're still just typing things. I've made these boxes yellow in their background, and I've put numbers in. We're pretending that there's an initial savings of 0, a monthly savings of 80, an interest rate of 6%. And this box displays 0.005, but what I actually typed is up here. Everyone see a small kind of row under the menus? What I typed was equals B11 divided by 12. And when I click on this box to help me, it puts a dashed line around B11 to say, ah, this is the thing I'm talking about up there. In a calculator, you hit equals at the end to say, I finished typing a bunch of stuff, tell me the answer. But in a spreadsheet, you start with equals. You have to warn the spreadsheet, this isn't me just typing like a word processor. Now I'm actually doing math. So I start with equals. B11 will take whatever number is here and then divided by is a slash and 12. So if I change this number, then the other number changes. Right? If I put 12, which would be a silly interest rate, then 12 divided by 12 is 1. Now I can make a chart like we did for the rent, 6 years of rent things. This is just labels. The starting balance, whoops, that's not there. It should say equals B9. So I clicked that box, just hit equals, picked that one, hit enter, and now it's equals B9. The deposit is B10. The interest due, I have to, how much is the interest due on? Let me make that look one row. It is, I need to pay interest on both these amounts, what was there and how much I just added. So $80 has interest due on it. What is the interest? I'm going to multiply the monthly interest rate by this number. So the formula is D14 times F11. And then the ending balance, I have to add these two. So D14 plus E14. I'm skipping over why I want to add these things because that's review from the 6 years of rent increase. If you weren't here for that day, this might be confusing because of the chart, not because of the fact we're in a spreadsheet. Questions about anything so far? Then this one.
Oh, I was just wondering if this was like an upcoming assignment or
maybe.
What?
I'm not sure how to use this, but it's at least worth seeing. The starting balance for the next month is going to be equal to the old thing. And then I can take these and drag them down, and that copies the formula all the way down, and everything works nicely. There's one little secret. If you look up top, see, it's not just equals B10, it's equals $10. And that's because otherwise, when I dragged it down, it's not going to always stay in this cell. As it goes down, it's going to next pick that cell and next pick that cell and so on, and that's going to mess us up. Watch how it breaks. So now I took out that and, oh, garbage, right? So we need the B10 to have that little dollar sign up there. So this is great. Let's just make up three numbers. What's our initial savings amount?
$500.
500. I'm going to pick like the younger person's number. What are they able to save each month? Maybe 80 is too much. Money is tight.
40.
40. And what interest rate can this person get?
%3.
So the numbers change. How much did they deposit? If you add up all these, you get 480. And actually, I should say that this, we're going to add the initial savings, right? They've actually put 980 in the account because of the 500 to start with. What's the total interest? Adding all these. And what's the total they've saved? Adding all those, or finishing the chart, not adding them. So the application questions are, think about an expense your household could reduce. Maybe you don't get Dutch Brothers as many mornings, or cut down on smoking or eating out or something. But estimate a monthly dollar amount that a household could save. What are your goals for investing or saving? Are you looking for a car, a house, education, maybe a kid's education, retirement, something else? Would you use a bank account? We just did a lot of stuff in last week's discussion forum about what kind of interest rate a bank account might earn. Or would you save with an IRA or a 529 plan? We'll mention those at the very least quickly today, so you would know what that is. What kind of rate might they get? So if you were to actually do something with the spreadsheet, you would pick three numbers. Everything else would change automatically. And then you could talk about what's happening after your year. Is this making me happy? And so on. So, ta-da. Yes, test is next Monday, someone asks in chat. So hopefully this was a good use of a few minutes. It took a while to set this up. If I was doing this problem just once, would I want to use a spreadsheet? Maybe, maybe not. There's a formula that I could do for depositing the same amount, right? Our annuity formula. But this is nice that if I want to fiddle with numbers, everything happens automatically. When you want to do the same problem many, many times, spreadsheets are your friend.
I have a question about the test.
Sure.
Did we decide on if we were going to do it in Discord for the breakout rooms, or are we going to do it by ourselves? I know you sent that email out, but I didn't read
You
it.
can certainly try it by yourself. Anyone that is fed up with tech and just wants to sit at a table, print the test and do it, great. But let's see what happens in 24 minutes when we have 10 minutes of everyone walking through installing Discord together. And I'm assuming that will work smoothly. And then yes, that's what we're doing. Okay, let's do some, let me reload week 3.
Hey, David, if people need to Discord download the Discord thing, should they start now?
You can run it right from the website.
Okay,
So
doesn't
if you
take
want
long
to, you can. You're welcome to try and download a Discord app right now on your phone or your computer, but you can run it right from the web browser you're using. Okay, yeah, let's just look at practice tests. So problem 2 is already on our Jamboard for today, but except for that one, is there a problem solving section problem that someone wants to do either themselves on the board to show off? It can count as doing an activity on the board, or they want me to do it because they're stumped. Let me make this a little bigger. Whoops, I'm not sharing my screen. Okay, there we go. Now we all have the same one, not some different selection of random things.
Can we walk through number 7?
Walk through 7, sure. 7 is a kind of tricky one. Oh, okay. So, first of all, this word margin. If you haven't had a business background, margin and markup are exactly the same thing as a dollar amount. The difference between the wholesale cost to the store and the retail selling price the customer pays. If you are starting at the lower number and looking up, you use the word markup. Our store got this thing for $100. We're going to sell it for $106. It's a $6 markup. If you're starting from the customer's price and looking down, you use the word margin. We know, looking at our competition, that we should sell this thing for $106. Can we find a supplier that will get it to us for 100 or less so that we can make enough profit off it? See the difference in mindset? Either way, you're just subtracting. So, what's a skim price, by the way? Okay, so somebody in an old math class didn't tell you this before. Let's go look at this. Okay, is that chart big enough for everyone to see? So what's happening here, we're starting at time 0 and moving forward in time. The new iPhone comes out. The selling price starts out really high. This is the hot, trendy thing. Everyone's paying oodles of money for it. Then as time goes on, the price goes down and down and down, and eventually it levels out. This is the old and boring price that things settle on. So this new hot, trendy price is called the skim price. And the old one is called the penetration price. It's penetrated the marketplace. Everyone who has one already wants one, so on like that. Okay, that's like sales jargon, but back to subtraction. So 210 and penetration price. Whoops, I did the wrong thing. Everyone catch my mistake?
You put the penetration price and not the wholesale price.
Right.
For the skim price margin.
I was not reading carefully because I was too busy trying to think about my charts. Thank you, Eli. So it's the 191 it costs the company to make one of these. Okay, I'm not trusting my mental math, IMUP. So 309. And 99. So we found the two margin amounts. Initially, they were making 309 bucks each time they sold a phone. Now they only make 99 bucks. If we divide the larger by smaller, this is like a percent change, change divided by original. This is the basis for comparison.
If the penetration price margin was higher than the skim price, would it still be larger by smaller?
Not if you want the extra margin from skimming, but there wouldn't be any extra margin from skimming. So the whole
Well, it would be a negative margin, right?
Right. So and my daily time, I will write Riplop for you if you still like that. Right into percent. So they got 312% more margin initially than they did later. It's about 3 times as big. Easy math, but if you haven't heard all the jargon, I could see why you'd want me to do this one. As a side note, I mentioned margin and markup are two words for the same subtraction. How are both of them different from profit?
Profit would be the difference between either of those numbers and whatever the wholesale price you were paying is.
We took away the wholesale price already.
Oh.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. This number here, what we called margin or markup. It's the difference between the price tag the customer sees and what the store pays for it. But that's different than profit. This store didn't make a $99 profit on the phone, even though it was a $99 margin or markup. Why is profit different?
You would have to factor in all of your costs to run the store.
Yeah, you have to pay your employees, you have all sorts of utilities, you have your building, you have insurance, there's all sorts of things the store is paying for other than I want to get this from my supplier. So their profit is going to be lower than whatever you call markup or margin based on what type of attitude you have on that number. A store might not even make any profit on a $99 margin based on how much effort it takes to sell something, right? Okay, ready for another problem? I see some nods. Okay, let's not move to finance yet. Anything else in the problem solving section making you nervous to see?
Can you do number 5?
Sure.
Can I do this one on the board?
Can you do this one on the board? Sure. Do you want me to grab a screenshot of your paper, or do you want to try and actually write on the whiteboard? Oops, you are muted, Eli.
I can do the whiteboard.
Okay.
2439. Okay. So how would I do the...
So I'll put the link in chat so you don't have to go to the top of the web page, but the same class whiteboard we always use.
Okay. So for a markup rate, you take that percentage and you change it into a decimal, right? And that'll give you that percent markup on your original price. But to get to the final price, you need to actually do 1 plus it. So we have 24. How do I draw on this? Oh, view only, request edit access. So David, I think I sent an request edit access to you or something. Okay, yeah.
It looks like Google changed. It used to be completely public that everyone could write on it. I'm hitting refresh in my email, but not getting it yet.
I mean, I can describe this and you can just draw it out.
Sure, let's do that. It's faster.
All right, so like I said, we're going to change that 24% into a decimal.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes 0.24. Then to get our actual final price, we need to account for that original $39. So we're going to make this 1.24 because the 1 shows us, 1 accounts for that $39. And so we simply do the multiplication of this, $39 times 1.24, and that will give us their selling price, which is their original price plus their 24% markup.
Okay, and what's the answer?
39 times 1.24 equals 48.36.
Okay. If you wanted to do this in 2 steps, you could. You could multiply just the 0.24 and the 39. Then you would have to add back on 39 as another step. That works great if that's how you do things.
So we'd call this, what would we call this then? The margin?
It's just a percent change.
Just a percent change. Okay.
Percent of. Right.
Okay.
Percent of, or you could call it the 1 plus trick because we're doing 1 plus the 0.24. If you want to see where this happened in class, then it was in the personal finance, no, it was the, there we go, mad science, percent of or percent change. And I'll put those links in the after class email.
Okay. And that link was where? I'm sorry.
Click on the girl with the science stuff.
Okay.
Stuff about an expression, more than one number, but not an equal sign yet. And then percent of, and percent change, and 1 plus trick.
Okay, I think the markup rate kind of, that word threw me maybe.
Yeah. It's just an easy setting for percent changes. Right?
Okay.
I otherwise have to make up word problems about somebody was 6 feet tall and then they grew another 3% during college, and how tall were they then? So this is just nice and simple. It makes sense no matter what the random numbers are.
Could you please do number 9 if you get the chance?
Number 9 is really hard.
Thank you.
If you are wanting to skip a problem, number 9 is a smart choice, but we will do it. Then it will probably be time for that. Let's either take a stretch break or walk through signing up for Discord. So a store puts an item on sale for a chain of 3 discounts. The first 2 discounts are 17% and 9%. They want the overall equivalent discount rate. So fancy words, it just means overall they want it to be 43% off. So how much do they need to change it the 3rd time to make their desire happen? This looks a lot like the Scrooge McDuck problem in number 2, where we don't know what he invested. It looks like we're missing a dollar amount, and it's going to work with any dollar amount. So we're going to pick an easy number for percentages. Let's do 100, because that makes all the rest of the math easier. So just pick 100. I'm going to do this 2 different ways. One way is more work, but is intuitive. The other way is more efficient, but might be confusing. So you don't have to know both ways. We'll see what happens. Okay, so step 1, step 2, step 3. So step one, we go from 100 to 17% off. So we can do 17% of 100 in our heads, but I just want to write out. So 0.17 times 100 is 17. And then we take our 100, subtract the 17, and get 83. Everyone okay with the first discount? I wrote that out, even though we can do 17% of 100 in our heads, because it's just 17, just to get us thinking about those steps, because we're going to use them again now with less friendly numbers. Now we're starting at 83, and we're going to what? So we have 9% of the 83. So $7.47. And then I take the 83, remove that. And I get 75.53. Now I'm taking the 75.53 and I want to get down to 43. Oops, that's not highlight. 43% off of 100. So if we get rid of 43%, get rid of 43 bucks, what's left?
57.
Okay, everyone okay so far?
I was writing, so where did you get the 57? You subtracted what?
We had a discount of 43 because we want 43% off overall.
Okay.
And that left us 53. I could write it in two different lines as we were before, if that helps you, but I just sort of stuck it up out of the way here.
Thank you.
Okay, so our transition here is our answer. What percent off do we need to get from $75.53 down to 57? So we want a change of $18.53 out of that 75. $53. So that formula, percent change, is change divided by original. So about 25%. Whatever this item is that we're selling, it's not selling well. If we put a third sale on 25% off, then we should get to the target price. That's a lot of writing. So before I do it the efficient way, any questions on this? Okay, I'm going to archive this to the next slide. Okay, let's make things more efficient. So this red line stuff, we could just say "17% off" means 83% remains. So this part here would just be the 100 we started with times 0.83. And instead of all this green business for step 2, we could say that 9% off means that 91% remains. So this here is just our 83 times a 0.91. And then similarly, we can get rid of all this stuff. Wish I could erase more efficiently, but I can't. And say that this is the 75.53 times something is my 57. Divide both sides by the 75.53 to get y by itself. And we're going to get not the 25, but about 75. Oops. Because again, we're talking about what remains after the sale. So if the third step has 75% remaining, so 100% minus that was how much went away, the discount sale. So most students tend to like this slide much better. You write more, but it just sort of flows. Some people want to write less. And if you think about what remains instead of what the sale amount is each time, then you can write less, but both are good.
Oh boy, that was a monster.
It is. Like I said, popular one to skip. I want to put it on so the people who want to show off have a chance, but if you want to skip it, that's fine. Okay, questions about that one before I say break time?
My only question is, can you leave it on the board for the break so I can examine it further?
No, because I need to go into Discord. But again, go to the link, the Jamboard in the chat, and you can look at it without me. Okay, so if you are, I'm going to actually pause the recording. We don't need to record teaching us. We have done problem solving all the way from easier ones to the terrible number 9. Let's do finance, and I want to do 10 through 14. So, pardon the noises of my wife's yoga ball. That's okay. Oh, I can put them both at the top. Okay, 10 was a quick, easy one. Don't make too much of it. She wants 15 years and 5%. Again, I will correct myself. The bigger the years, the more interest you will have over the life of your loan. I made the opposite statement and shouldn't have Monday. So her number is 791. She can afford monthly payments of $939. And this was that word problem story of going to the bank with a suitcase full of money. Her suitcase has $939, and every time she pays $791, she gets $1,000 of loan. So she gives the bank teller $791, and the bank teller says, "Great, you have $1,000 of loan." She gives the bank teller another $791. The bank teller says, "Great, you're up to $2,000 of loan." And how do we find how many times 791 fits into the 939?
You divide it.
Divide it.
$118.71.
Okay, so I'm going to round, and we could round up or down. If she wants to stay a little under budget to be safe, then 118 would be a perfectly acceptable answer. But I'm going to round it kind of the way rounding normally tells us to, with 0.7 means go up to 119. And again, this is how many thousands of loan she has.
I got 118,710.49.
Yeah. So I'm rounding up to 119 from 118.
Okay, because we're just at thousands. Okay.
It's traditional to talk about mortgage and house sizes as thousands, right? People say, I'm going to get a $60,000 house. No one says, I'm going to get a $60,512 house. I mean, it usually turns out to be something that's not a nice rounded number, but this is just how the budgeting kind of works. So we're following that tradition. So how large a home is affordable? We'll write this as 119,000 as the home size. And that's all there is to it. There's no big formulas. It's just a division problem. So far, so good. Ready to move on? Okay, oh, there we are. Eventually, she finds a home worth that much with a 21% down payment. So this is a percent of problem. So 21%, we're going to change to 0.21. Of, we're going to change to multiply, and 119,000. So 24,990. So it doesn't ask us this yet, but we have to figure it out anyway. What's the actual loan size going to be?
Well, you would take the 119,000 and subtract it by the 24,990, and then the actual home loan would be $94,010.
$94,10, you said?
Yes.
Now, what's her actual monthly payment going to be?
I believe that's where you take the $94,010, and then we're gonna times it by the 7.91, I think was what this one.
Now, a bunch of people are about to get confused. Don't get confused. We have 94.01 thousands of loan, and I scooted 3 decimal place. And the reason a bunch of people are about to get confused is this looks a lot like Riplop and scooting percent in and out of percent to get decimals. We are not going between decimals and percents. We're not scooting 2 places. We are scooting 3 places simply because we're replacing the comma 000 with the word, how many $1,000 of loan do I have? I'm imagining that this is my decimal point because that's counting thousands instead of counting by ones. So don't start changing percents to decimals with 3 scoots, and don't only scoot 2 here. We're doing different things. They just look too much alike. But that's how many thousands of loans she actually has. And yes, the 791. And we get what that is, whatever that is, 94.01 times 791 is 743.62. That's smaller. She budgeted 939. She's only writing checks each month for 743, but again, that's good. We're assuming she doesn't have 25,000 cash lying around. She's paying back grandma or paying back her retirement fund or something to get that down payment. So it's okay that her monthly checks for mortgage are under budget. Okay, now number 12. This is also a percent of.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
When I was doing the first one of my midterm practice for homework, that's where it kind of got confused at. So on 11, even though it doesn't say all of that, we should be doing the monthly payment and what the actual loan size is all in number 11 before we go on to the percentage fee.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
We don't need it for 12, but just it's sort of silly to think about the down payment and not think about, well, what is the actual loan? So I'm just sort of getting ready.
Okay, I was just making sure because I did all of that in like step 12 before I moved on.
That's fine, right?
Okay.
In problem 12, I could have found the fee just by multiplying this number without that one. I haven't used my actual monthly payment yet. So 1% of that, there's my fee. Now number 13. Oops, let me change the window a little bit. These are ones you haven't seen before unless you were at the study session. How much will she pay over 15 years? So if you haven't found the monthly payment amount before, you need to now. 743.62. And then we're going to multiply it by 15 years. She's writing checks. And every month she has to write a check. So 12 months per year. And we get 133,000.
Wouldn't it be divided by months?
No, because every month she has to write.
Oh, of 743. Okay.
A check. That's just a bad sign. Let me make it better. Okay. So how much of that is interest? So she wrote a total amount from her checkbook of this big number. The actual loan was the 9410. So everything else has to be interest. And now you've seen those in class. Nothing terribly tricky, but I'm not sure we've officially done them during a class hours before. Questions on that before we move on? Okay, 15, I want to point out how you can cheat. remember our spreadsheet here where we were building each row going sideways to the right. In the midterm problem 15, you don't have to do that. If I want to find out these numbers, I actually never need to multiply. So let's start with this one. How much do we start with in month 2 when paying off a credit card?
You're starting with the $2,595.35.
Yeah, this number here just goes there. Make sense? And similarly, this number here goes there. So how about the interest due on? That one, I'm just adding up these two numbers. And if I was working forward, I would say this amount multiplied by something gives me the interest.
Wouldn't it be minus the 570?
Oh yes, because we're subtracting now. Thank you. I am too used to the other one. Thank you, thank you. Okay, but I don't need to multiply here because I don't have to go forward. I have this number sitting in front of me. So how can I find this interest amount more easily?
Would you subtract whatever the starting and payment is? So whatever the interest is, you would subtract the ending from the interest due on.
Yeah, I could say this number minus that number is the interest. Because going forward, once I had the interest, I would add those together, right? So if you understand how these tables work, like Eli does and I don't, then this is a pretty quick problem. It's a bunch of little subtraction and addition things. Questions on this before we're done? Okay. Let's definitely talk about this. So we have 4 problems, 21, 22, 23, and 24. Which one is the simple interest and how do you know? This will shrink the font a little bit unavoidably, but I want to write on things. So which one is simple interest? How do you know?
Is it 23?
Yeah, and how do you know?
Because it says simple
It
interest
has
rate at the
simple
end.
interest rate. So the formula is, don't make these harder than they are. Simple interest. And the clues are, it says simple interest. And it has to say simple interest. These days, if it doesn't, the assumption is it's compound interest. Okay, which one is the compound interest problem with the compound interest formula?
24.
Mm-hmm. And how do we know that?
Because it says it's compounded weekly.
Yeah.
I have a question about that one. Could that also be the end of the month annuity formula too? Well, maybe not on this one, but the one that I have that I was doing homework on was doing it bi-monthly. And so I wasn't sure if it could be either one of them.
Yeah, for 24, it says compounded weekly. And it's also, she just lets the amount grow. She's not putting in more than one amount of money. So the annuity formulas have repeated deposits. This has only one deposit. She somehow, whatever, inherits money and just lets it sit there. Okay. Which is the increasing annuity formula?
21.
21. Let me see what we're actually calling it officially. The annual increasing annuity, right? No, not 21, 22. Because she's putting in money repeatedly. And that leaves for 21, this is the one we're calling the decreasing annuity formula or the payout annuity formula. And it has repeat withdrawals. The repeat withdrawals might seem a little funky to think about it that way. We're used to thinking about our car payments as payments, not withdrawals. But imagine from the point of view of the loan itself. It's like, oh, stuff is coming out of me. The loan is, from the perspective of the loan, money is being taken away.
Can we go over 23? Just make sure that I did that one correctly.
Mm-hmm. Before I start 23 though, just because of the time, it's 3:45. We have 5 minutes officially. We can stay later if people want more review, that's fine. I don't have to drive my kids anywhere. I am going to start using this calculator at this point in the test. We're actually doing enough formulas that I want to model this calculator. So if you have to leave right now and want to know how to do this calculator on the website because yours is annoying, then look at the video. Also, I don't really need to give you a quiz. We're about to have a test. I'm thinking I can assign this as a makeup quiz. If you missed a quiz before, then you could fill this out, explain the answers to your questions, and it would just fill in the blank from when you missed. That sound okay as a plan to everybody?
Sounds good.
What if you haven't missed a quiz?
If you haven't, then later on you can do it when you do miss a quiz. Stay healthy. Yeah.
How many quizzes should we have right now?
2, because
Just
we've had
2?
2 weeks.
Okay.
So.
If we don't plan to miss a quiz, can we do it for extra credit?
Oh, probably not, but we'll see.
It was worth asking.
There's no place in the grade book to plug in extra credit. So you could have some, but it would kind of just float around in Care Bear land, not doing anything. Okay, simple interest. So as always with these formulas, the annoying thing is setting it up. So you might hate this, but I'm going to write out all these things so we're not confused. And maybe you have done so much homework that you don't need this anymore, but I encourage you on your actual test to do this anyway, partly because all of us have our brains turn off on tests and writing carefully helps. And also because you will be comparing your answers with other people, either during part of it, if you're in the Discord crowd, or later on someday, if you're at the work home at a table by myself crowd. So having it look nice helps other people as well as yourself. Okay, so I got my setup. He pays $542 for a payday loan, simple interest, 19 days. So that's going to be 19 3/65 of a year. He has a post-dated check. And what's the loan simple interest rate? So this is what we're solving for. So the story, if you don't know how payday loans work, is poor Stalwart is getting paid 19 days from now, but his water heater broke or something else happened, and he needs $542 today. So he goes into the store and says, I need a loan. And they say, okay, we will give you a loan for $542. Then he writes a post-dated check. He puts the date on the check, not today, but 19 days in the future. And that means that he doesn't have to come back to this business, right? Social distancing, he doesn't want to drive here again. So he's just going to leave this post-dated check, and 19 days from now, the check will be valid because it will have the right date, and the payday loan store can deposit it and their business deal is done. So that's what a post-dated check is, if you haven't heard about those. Okay, so how much was the interest amount, or how much is the principal? I have these $2 amounts. Tell me what to do.
The simple interest would be the post-dated check for $550.18.
Not quite. He doesn't owe $550 of interest.
The simple interest is what we're solving for, correct?
No, we're solving for the rate.
Oh, for the... Oh, it's the difference between 542 and 550.18.
Yeah, the 542 is his loan amount. That's what he owes for his water heater or whatever this is. The difference between them is going to be the interest. He wrote his check for a little bit more to cover the interest. Everyone happy so far? Okay, that was the hard part. Now we just plug it in. So 818 is 542 times some rate I don't know, times, and it's everyone okay if I change my fraction into division because the calculator will like it better. I have a y in the middle of this right-hand side. What am I going to do?
So that's where, or at least what I did was I took 542 times the 19 divided by 365.
That is correct. I'm going to write an extra step just in case what Ashley did confuses you. I'm going to start by saying when I multiply things, I don't care what order I multiply them in. So y times 542 is the same as 542 times y. Then I will say, as she did, all of this is just a number. 542 times 19 divided by 365 28.21369. I can round in the middle a little bit because we're just going to get dollars and cents anyway. So now I have number equals y times a number. How do I get y by itself?
You divide the 28.21369 on 9.
So I'm getting about 29%. Questions on 23? Oh, if you were here and haven't said anything in chat, somehow say here in chat still. Make sure attendance is done before our time. Jay just says pain. I don't know if he meant that number 23 in particular was a pain in the neck or attendance is a pain. Or both.
I do have another quick question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
On the one I printed out for 25, it's asking for, so it has 5% annual interest that's compounded semi-annually.
Okay, let's stick to these ones here that we've been using before.
Okay. I just can't figure out how to do the semi-annually. That's what's.
So you want one of these with semi-annually. Okay,
yeah.
Let's just load up things till we say semi-annually. Weekly. Sorry. Doesn't say semi-annually often, does it? Okay, I'm going to give up searching for it. I'm not going to put one semi-annually on your test anyway. That would be annoying.
Okay, thank you. I know it's twice a year, so is it like divided by 6? Because
divided by 2 if it's twice a year.
Okay, that's what I couldn't figure out, and it was driving me crazy. Thank you.
And the number of years you would multiply by 2. Okay, compound interest formula. So get here. Now I'm going to actually use that online calculator. Okay, am I ready to plug things in?
Yes.
No.
I'm sorry.
What do I need to do?
Are we going to do something to the number of payouts?
Yeah, it's compounded monthly. So we don't pay 3.5% each time. That's over the whole year.
Divide that by 12.
So I have to share that among my 12 months. And we get more than 18 payouts because every year we get 12 of them. If it was compounded weekly, these would be 52s. If it was compounded quarterly, these would be 4s. It's all how often you have to share the interest rate and how many times you get copies per year of a payout. Okay, 0.035 times 12, 0.42. That can't be right. Divided by 12. 0.002916. And I'm going to put a little bar over my 6 to show it repeats. And that's now a per month rate. And 18 times 12 gives me 216 years. Not years, months. Okay, now we're ready to plug things in. First, I'll write it, then I'll use the fancy Desmos website calculator. I'm just putting a 1 in front of that long decimal. I don't need any parentheses. And I'm putting in lots of 6s, as many as my calculator will let me do.
Why are we not using parentheses for this one?
Because we don't need one to put just a 1 in front of the decimal.
Okay.
You could, I could write 6,000 times parentheses 1 plus 0.00, whatever that was, 29166.
I see now. Okay.
291, lots of 6s. Close parentheses, exponent, and 216. But that's kind of extra, right? I can just say, what's that? So I get about $11,255 and 34 cents. Now, Eli always asks about rounding, but we're over time and it looks like he's left. Maybe he will see this later. If I put lots of 6s in, because that just goes on forever, it's not changing my answer. I have enough 6s that I have as many decimal places precision as I want. But if I didn't have any 6s repeating, then it's a little bit different, right? I'm off by a couple dollars. So rounding in the middle will change things. So put in enough 6s that your answer stops changing. Or on a normal calculator, just hit 6 as many times as it lets you fill up the window. And that's compound interest. I'm going to take this and make a screenshot of it. And stick it on there. Have a good studying time if you're going. So we've done the simple interest. We've done the compound interest. Now we should do one that's a annual increasing annuity. Anyone need more copies of simple interest or compound interest before we go on? Okay, annual increasing. Okay, which one of the ones on our new random test is the annual increasing annuity formula?
You said the annual annuity?
Okay, one of them will be this annual increasing annuity formula.
Yeah, I think it was 21.
Yes, in this case, it's 21. Because he's depositing a certain amount at the start of each year. So as before, the setup is the tricky one. Although for these, it tends to be easiest because everything is always annual. We don't have any of that annoying divide by 12 times 12 stuff. $35 years, 346.04. And that's what we solve for. So, wimpy, we don't have to do anything to those numbers. Yay. Now the small parentheses, I can just put the 1 in front, that's easy. But the big parentheses, I need to actually write. The other mistake that people often make is don't put a 1 here. You've just put a 1 twice. It's really easy to just keep going by habit and put a 1 there, but don't. So what do we have? 346. 346 times a 1.04 times a 1.04 times parentheses 1.04 to the whatever we're at, 35. Minus 1, close the parentheses, divided by. Now on this calculator, when I hit divided by, it wants to make it into a fraction. So, yeah. Is there anyone who's still here who wants to share their screen and have them do the calculator to make sure that they can make it work? Because for some reason your handheld calculator is not your friend. Okay, one more, then we'll be done. For people who want it, the last formula was the decreasing annuity formula, and then we will have seen them all. So which one of these is the decreasing?
Is it 25? Did we already do that one?
It's going to be one of these four.
Oh.
22.
22. I'm going to shrink it a little so I can copy it better. And fix my window. Okay. It'll always say car payment. That's the wimpy way to see. Okay. So the principal is going to be his car cost that we're solving for. That's the big number. The withdraw is how much he's paying each time. Again, from the point of view of the loan, imagine you are the loan, this is how much comes out of you each time. The rate per payout, it's 0.1 per year. And 7 years. It is monthly. So we need to fidget again. As the previous problem, the big parentheses, the ones that look like brackets, we need to keep. Okay, everyone okay with what's on the screen now before I switch to the calculator? You're quiet. Are you stunned or is it okay?
It looks like Julie's still writing, but I'm good. I've gotten everything written
Okay.
down.
I'm gonna keep typing here then.
I'm good too. Yeah, thank you.
Whoops. 161 times parentheses 1 minus 1.008 lots of threes. 1.008 lots of threes, exponent to the negative 84. And then close my parentheses. And then divided by the 0.008 and lots of threes. Remember, we want to keep adding threes until it's not changing the answer anymore. Any questions? Remember, on your calculator, let me stop sharing my screen and hold up to my webcam. I have a calculator with a button that has plus or minus. Come on, webcam. Oh, well, you can barely see it, but it has plus or minus. I have to use that for the negative exponent. I can't just what am I trying to say? Use the subtraction button. So whatever your calculator does right up here, you might need to fiddle with a little. And I'm going to stop recording.